December 3rd, 1986. Johnny Carson was having a perfect night. The monologue was killing, the audience was electric, his timing was razor sharp, everything was flowing exactly as it should for a man who'd been hosting The Tonight Show for 24 years. Johnny Carson was a professional, Johnny Carson never lost control, Johnny Carson could handle anything. And then he tried to say, "Sloppy jalopy." What happened in the next 16 minutes would become the most replayed moment in Tonight Show history. A tongue twister that broke the king of late night. 47 failed attempts that had 20 million Americans laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. A spontaneous moment of pure chaos that proved sometimes the best television happens when everything goes spectacularly wrong. This is the story of the night Johnny Carson's brain betrayed him, and America fell in love with him all over again. The show had started at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Like always, Johnny walked through the iconic curtain to Doc Severinsen's fanfare and Ed McMahon's booming introduction. "Here's Johnny!" The audience erupted. Another night, another show, another performance from the most trusted man in American television. Johnny's opening monologue was vintage Carson. Sharp political jokes about Reagan, a bit about Christmas shopping, some observational humor about California weather. The audience ate it up. Johnny was in complete command, delivering each punchline with the precision of a surgeon. "I was driving to work today," Johnny said, settling into one of his classic setups, "and I saw this old car broken down on the side of the road. Real piece of junk. You know the kind I'm talking about, a real sloppy jowl." Johnny stopped mid-word. His mouth had done something weird. The sounds hadn't come out right. He smiled, thinking it was just a minor stumble. "Sorry, folks. Let me try that again. This car was a real sloppy slappy jowl." The audience started to giggle, not at the joke, at Johnny Carson, who never stumbled over words, who could deliver a 12-minute monologue without a single error, couldn't say sloppy jalopy. Ed McMahon, sitting at his desk, leaned forward slightly. He'd seen Johnny handle drunk guests, technical disasters, and every imaginable crisis with perfect composure. But he'd never seen Johnny unable to say two simple words. "Sloppy jalopy," Johnny tried again, speaking slowly and deliberately. "Sloppy jalopy." It came out as sloppy jalopy. The audience laughed louder. Johnny's eyes widened slightly. This wasn't supposed to be happening. "Okay, folks, give me a second here," Johnny said, genuinely confused. "I seem to be having a problem with the English language. Sloppy jalopy, sloppy jalopy, sloppy jalopy, slobby jalopy, sloppy jalopy." Each attempt was different, each attempt was wrong, and with each failed attempt, the audience laughed harder. Ed McMahon was now openly grinning. Doc Severinsen had put down his trumpet because his shoulders were shaking. The camera operators were struggling to keep their cameras steady. Johnny looked at his cue cards, as if the words written there would somehow help his mouth cooperate. They didn't. "Slowly, Joppy," Johnny said, and immediately knew it was the worst attempt yet. The audience was howling now. People were doubled over, some were crying. This wasn't polite talk show laughter. This was genuine, uncontrollable, contagious laughter. And then Johnny made the decision that would turn this moment from a minor stumble into television legend. Instead of moving on, instead of cutting to commercial, instead of doing what any professional broadcaster would do, he committed to the bit. "No," Johnny said, his competitive nature kicking in. "No, I'm going to say this correctly if it kills me. Sloppy jalopy. It's two simple words. Sloppy jalopy. How hard can this be?" Very hard, as it turned out. Sloppy jalopy. Sloppy jolappy. Slobby joppy. Each attempt was met with increasing hysteria from the audience. Johnny's face was turning red, not from embarrassment, from the effort of trying to make his mouth cooperate with his brain. Ed McMahon was no longer even pretending to hold it together. He was bent over his desk, pounding it with his fist, tears streaming down his face, making sounds that weren't quite laughter, more like the desperate gasps of a drowning man. "Ed, this isn't helping," Johnny said, which only made Ed laugh harder. Johnny turned back to the audience. "Folks, I've done this show for 24 years. I've interviewed presidents. I've handled every crisis you can imagine, and I cannot say sloppy jalopy." He tried again. "Sloppy jalopy." The audience screamed. "That wasn't even close," Johnny yelled at himself. "What is happening to me?" Doc Severinsen, the band leader who usually stayed quietly in the background, stood up with tears in his eyes. "Johnny, just stop. Please, I can't breathe." "No." Johnny was genuinely committed now. "Sloppy jalopy. Sloppy jalopy. Sloppy jalopy. Sloppy jalopy." Somewhere around the 15th failed attempt, something magical happened. The show stopped being a show. It became a shared experience. 20 million Americans were watching Johnny Carson, the most composed man on television, completely lose his mind over 2 words he'd probably said 1,000 times in his life. Okay, Johnny said, trying to compose himself. He took a sip of water. He straightened his tie. He took a deep breath. I'm a professional. I can do this. Here we go. Slappy Jalopy. The audience absolutely lost it. People were falling out of their seats. One woman in the front row was laughing so hard she couldn't make any sound, just silent shaking. Ed McMahon had given up entirely. He'd slid down in his chair, his face buried in his hands, his shoulders convulsing. Every few seconds he'd try to look up, see Johnny's face, and collapse again. Ed, you're fired, Johnny said, pointing at him. You're supposed to support me. You're my sidekick. Instead, you're... Johnny started laughing too. Instead, you're useless. This made Ed laugh even harder, which made Johnny laugh, which made the audience laugh, which created a feedback loop of hysteria that was spreading through the studio like a contagion. Fred de Cordova, the show's producer, was in the control booth having a complete meltdown of a different kind. They were supposed to go to commercial 5 minutes ago. They had a celebrity guest waiting backstage. They had a schedule. They had commitments. And Johnny Carson was on stage having a linguistic breakdown over a tongue twister. Should we cut to commercial? One of the technical directors asked. Are you insane? Fred replied. This is gold. Keep rolling. Back on stage, Johnny had entered a new phase. Scientific experimentation. Let me try saying them separately, he announced. Sloppy. See? I can say sloppy. Now jalopy. Jalopy. There. I can say both words individually. Now together. Sloppy jalopy. Sloppy jalopy. How? The audience was in pain now. Actual physical pain from laughing. Several people had left their seats to go to the bathroom because they couldn't hold it anymore. Maybe if I say it really fast, Johnny suggested. Sloppy jalopy. That's just gibberish. Okay, really slow. Sloopy jalopy. Sloppy jalopy. I did it slow and still got it wrong. Doc Severinsen had actually fallen off his chair. The band members were holding each other up. One trumpet player had laughed so hard he'd given himself a nosebleed. Johnny looked at the camera with the expression of a man who'd lost everything. America, I don't know what to tell you. I've failed you. I failed the English language. I failed 2 perfectly innocent words that never did anything to hurt me. He tried again. Slabby joppy. A camera operator's camera started shaking so badly they had to switch to a different angle. You know what? Johnny said, a manic gleam in his eye. I'm going to try every possible combination until I accidentally get it right. Jalopy salopy, jolly slappy, sappy jalopy, loppy sa jolly, jalopy sloppy. Wait, that's backwards, but at least both words were correct. The audience gave him a standing ovation for getting the words right in the wrong order. Thank you, Johnny said, taking a bow. My brain is broken, but at least the words exist somewhere in there. Ed McMahon had recovered enough to speak. Johnny, he gasped, just give up, please move on. Never, Johnny declared. I will conquer this. Sloppy jalopy, sloppy jalopy. That was 3 words, Ed screamed, dissolving again. Johnny put his face in his hands. When he looked up, tears were streaming down his face. From laughter, from frustration, from the sheer absurdity of what was happening. I need help, Johnny announced. Ed, you try. Ed wiped his eyes and attempted to compose himself. Sloppy jalopy. He said it perfectly. The audience gasped. Johnny stared at him. How did you do that? I don't know, Ed said, genuinely surprised. Sloppy jalopy. It's easy. It's not easy, Johnny yelled. Stop showing off. Sloppy slappy jolopy. See? It's impossible. By now, the failure had become more entertaining than any joke Johnny could have written. People watching at home were calling their friends. Turn on Carson right now. Attempt number 32 arrived, and Johnny had completely abandoned any pretense of moving forward with the show. This was his life now. He would say sloppy jalopy correctly or die trying. Let me try singing it, Johnny announced. Maybe if I sing the words, my brain won't sabotage me, he sang to the tune of a made-up melody. Sloopy jalopy. I sang it wrong. Johnny collapsed onto his desk. I can't even sing it correctly. Doc Severinsen, still recovering from his own laughing fit, offered a suggestion. Johnny, try thinking of something else while you say it. Don't focus on the words. Okay. Johnny closed his eyes. I'm thinking about my dog. I'm relaxed. I'm calm. Sloppy jalopy. Slabby jalopy. My dog didn't help. The audience was beyond recovery. Some people had literally slid out of their chairs onto the floor. The laughter had become a continuous roar, like an ocean that wouldn't stop crashing. Ed McMahon tried to stand up to get water, but his legs wouldn't support him. He just waved his hand weakly. "I'm done. I'm finished. I can't take any more." "We're all done, Ed," Johnny shouted. "This tongue twister has defeated all of us. It's won. Sloppy Jalopy is the victor. Sloppy Joel, Joppy Salopy." A teenager in the audience laughed so hard he actually threw up. NBC staff had to escort him out. He would later say it was worth it. Johnny stood up and walked to the edge of the stage. "Folks, I need your energy. On the count of 3, everyone say sloppy jalopy with me. Maybe collective willpower will help. 1, 2, 3. The entire audience. "Sloppy jalopy! Johnny, a sloppy jalopy!" The audience screamed. Johnny screamed back. "You all did it. Why can't I do it?" Attempt 40 came and went, then 41. Johnny tried whispering it, shouting it, saying it in an accent, spelling it out loud first. Nothing worked. "Maybe I had a stroke," Johnny said seriously. "Maybe this is a medical emergency and we're all just laughing while I'm dying." "You're not dying," Ed managed to say. "You just can't say sloppy jowl." Ed couldn't finish because he started laughing again at the memory of all Johnny's attempts. By attempt 45, Johnny had entered a zen-like state of acceptance. "You know what? Maybe I'm not meant to say these words. Maybe the universe is telling me something. Maybe some people are destined to say sloppy jalopy and some people aren't, and I'm in the second group." He paused dramatically. "But I'm going to try 2 more times. Attempt 46, sloppy jalopy. Slobby jalopy. Attempt 47, sloppy jalopy. Slappy joppy." Johnny spread his arms wide. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have officially given up. After 47 attempts, I cannot say sloppy jalopy. I am broken. I am defeated. This show is a disaster." The audience gave him the longest standing ovation in Tonight Show history, 3 full minutes of applause, cheering, and continued laughter. "Why are you applauding my failure?" Johnny asked, laughing himself now. "Because it was beautiful," someone yelled from the audience, and it was. For 16 unscripted minutes, America had watched Johnny Carson be completely, authentically human. No polish, no perfection, just a man losing an absurd battle with his own mouth and loving every second of it. The show finally went to commercial 17 minutes late. The celebrity guest who'd been waiting backstage said it was the greatest thing he'd ever witnessed. When they came back from break, Johnny's eyes were still red from laughing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Johnny said, composing himself with visible effort, "I apologize for that complete meltdown. That was not professional. That was not what you tune in for. But I physically could not say 2 simple words." The audience started chanting, "Sloppy jalopy! Sloppy jalopy!" Johnny held up his hands. Don't make me try again. I've been traumatized enough." The episode became an instant legend. NBC's switchboard was flooded with calls from people begging for the segment to be replayed. By morning, every news show in America was talking about it. Johnny Carson, the unflappable professional, brought to his knees by a tongue twister. The network aired the full 16-minute segment again the following night by popular demand. It got higher ratings than the original broadcast. People who'd missed it called friends to watch together. It became a cultural moment, proof that sometimes the best entertainment is completely unplanned. Johnny received over 50,000 letters about the incident. Teachers wrote saying they'd used it to teach students about perfectionism and laughing at yourself. Therapists said they showed it to patients struggling with anxiety about making mistakes. Parents said they'd watched it with their kids to show that even the most successful people fail sometimes, and that's okay. 3 weeks later, Johnny attempted to say sloppy jalopy again during his monologue. The audience immediately started laughing before he even tried. This time, he said it perfectly on the first attempt. The audience booed playfully. They'd wanted another meltdown. "Sorry to disappoint you," Johnny grinned. "Apparently my brain decided to work tonight." But then he added, "However, I've been informed that I also can't say unique New York 3 times fast, so let's see if we can recreate the magic. Unique New York, unique New York, unique Nork, New Yoon." And America fell in love with him all over again. The sloppy jalopy incident has been viewed over 100 million times across various platforms. It's taught in broadcasting schools as an example of how authenticity trumps perfection. It's used in comedy classes to demonstrate the power of committing to a bit. It's shown to corporate executives as a lesson in vulnerability, making people more relatable, not less. Johnny Carson passed away in 2005, but sloppy jalopy lives forever. At his memorial service, Ed McMahon told the story one final time, laughing and crying simultaneously. "That was Johnny at his best," Ed said. "Not when everything went right, but when everything went wrong and he just enjoyed it. In Johnny's office at NBC, which was preserved as a museum, there's a small plaque that was put up as a joke by the staff. It reads, "On this spot, December 3rd, 1986, Johnny Carson attempted to say sloppy jalopy 47 times. He failed magnificently. 47 attempts, 16 minutes, 0 successes. And one perfect reminder that the moments when we're most human, flawed, frustrated, and laughing at ourselves are the moments people remember forever. If this story made you laugh, share it with someone who takes themselves too seriously. Sometimes the best thing we can do is fail spectacularly and enjoy every second of it.